Emma Carter had dreamed about her wedding day since she was a little girl. She imagined her father walking her down the aisle. She imagined her mother fixing her veil and whispering, "You look beautiful." She imagined her older brother making a terrible joke just before the ceremony began. But on the morning of her wedding, every one of those dreams disappeared. Emma stood in front of the mirror inside the bridal suite, wearing the white dress she'd spent months choosing. Her best friend Olivia stood behind her. "You look incredible," Olivia whispered. Emma smiled, but her eyes were fixed on her phone. No messages from her father. No messages from her mother. Nothing from her brother. Finally, at 9:17 a.m., her phone buzzed. It was her mother. "I'm sorry, Emma, something came up. I won't be able to make it today." Emma stared at the message. "That's it?" she whispered. Olivia gently took the phone from her hand. "What did your dad say?" Emma shook her head. "Nothing." Her father had known about the wedding for more than a year. He had promised to walk her down the aisle. But 2 weeks earlier, he had told Emma he wasn't sure he could attend. He had never explained why. Her brother Jason had also canceled that morning. "Sorry, something came up. Hope everything goes well." Emma felt something inside her crack. She wasn't expecting hundreds of guests. She didn't need an enormous wedding. She only wanted her family. At 4 o'clock, the church doors opened. Emma stood at the entrance. The music began. She looked toward the first row. Empty. The seats reserved for her parents were empty. The seat reserved for Jason was empty. Emma took a deep breath. Then she walked. Alone, every step toward the altar felt like walking through a lifetime of disappointment. At the end of the aisle stood Daniel, the man she loved. His eyes filled with tears when he saw her. When Emma reached him, Daniel quietly took her hand. "You're not alone," he whispered. Emma tried not to cry. The ceremony began. Everything was beautiful. The flowers. The music. The sunlight coming through the stained glass windows. But Emma couldn't stop thinking about those empty seats. Then, just before the vows, the officiant suddenly cleared his throat. "Emma, there's something you should know." She looked confused. "What?" The officiant turned toward the congregation. Then he said something that made Emma's heart stop. "Please stand." For a moment, nobody moved. Then one woman slowly stood. Then another. Then another. Emma looked around the church. Within seconds, nearly 50 people were standing. People she didn't recognize. Emma whispered, "Who are they?" And then the first stranger walked toward her. She was crying. "Emma," the woman said, "you probably don't remember me." Emma shook her head. The woman smiled through her tears. "But I'll never forget you." The woman's name was Margaret. She was 67 years old. Emma still couldn't understand why she was standing there. Margaret looked at her and said, 3 years ago, I was sitting outside St. Mary's Hospital." Emma's eyes widened. She remembered that place. She had worked at the hospital cafe during college. "My husband had just died," Margaret continued. I couldn't stop crying. Emma listened silently. "You brought me a cup of coffee." Emma looked confused. "I did?" Margaret nodded. "You sat beside me for almost an hour." Emma slowly remembered. There had been an elderly woman sitting alone. Emma had brought her coffee. Then she'd sat beside her because she didn't think anyone should have to grieve alone. Margaret reached for Emma's hand. "You told me something that day." "What?" "You said you don't have to be strong every minute." Emma's eyes filled with tears. Margaret smiled. "I never forgot those words." Then another man stepped forward. His name was David. "You helped me too." Emma stared at him. David explained that 5 years earlier, he had been unemployed and struggling to support his young daughter. Emma had volunteered at a local community center. She had helped him complete his job application. She had even stayed late to help him prepare for his interview. "I got that job," David said. "My daughter had food on the table because you refused to let me give up." Emma covered her mouth. Then a young woman approached. "You gave me your old laptop when I was trying to finish college." Another person stepped forward. "You paid for my groceries when my card was declined." Another said, "You volunteered at the homeless shelter every Thanksgiving." Another remembered Emma bringing meals to a sick neighbor. One by one, the stories came. Emma had forgotten most of them. But those people hadn't. For nearly 10 years, Emma had quietly helped people in her community. She never posted about it. She never expected praise. She simply believed that if you could help someone, you should. The officiant finally explained. These people learned that your family wasn't coming. Emma looked around. But why are you here? Margaret answered. Because we heard you were going to walk down that aisle feeling alone. She pointed toward the 50 people standing behind her. So we decided you wouldn't. A man in the back shouted, "Your family!" Another person repeated it. Then everyone began saying it. Family! Emma broke down. Daniel wrapped his arms around her. For the first time that day, Emma wasn't crying because she had been abandoned. She was crying because she realized she had never been alone. But then Margaret reached into her purse. I have one more thing for you. She handed Emma a small envelope. Your father gave me this. Emma froze. My father? Margaret nodded. He asked me to give it to you today. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. She recognized her father's handwriting immediately. She began reading. Emma, I don't deserve to call myself your father today. Emma, I don't deserve to call myself your father today. Emma stopped. Her eyes filled with tears. Daniel gently held her hand. She continued. For years I convinced myself that providing a house, paying bills and putting food on the table meant I had been a good father. I was wrong. I should have told you I was proud of you. I should have listened to you. I should have noticed how often you were there for everyone else. Emma swallowed hard. Her father continued. When Jason needed something, we ran toward him. When you needed something, we told you that you were strong enough to handle it yourself. That wasn't strength. That was neglect. Emma closed her eyes. The words hurt. But they also answered a question she'd carried since childhood. Maybe she hadn't been unlovable. Maybe she'd simply been overlooked. The letter continued. I heard about the people coming to your wedding. 50 people who aren't related to you by blood. And I realized something that broke my heart. They know who you are. I didn't. Emma couldn't hold back her tears. Then came the final lines. I am sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me today. I only hope that one day I can earn the right to be part of your life again. Emma folded the letter. The entire church was silent. Daniel looked at her. You don't have to forgive him right now. Emma nodded. I know. She looked toward the empty seats where her parents should have been. For years, she had wondered what was wrong with her. Why couldn't her family love her the way she needed? But now she understood. Nothing was wrong with her. She had spent years searching for love in places that weren't capable of giving it. And suddenly, 50 strangers had shown her what love looked like. Margaret stepped forward. Emma, may I say something? Emma nodded. Margaret turned toward everyone. Some people think family is about blood. She looked back at Emma. But I've learned that family is about showing up. The room became quiet. Your family may have missed this wedding. Margaret smiled. But look around. Emma looked around. 50 people were still standing. Your family is here? The church erupted in applause. Emma cried. Daniel kissed her forehead. Then the officiant smiled. Emma, Daniel, shall we continue? Emma wiped her tears. Yes. She took Daniel's hands. And for the first time that day, she smiled without forcing it. When the officiant finally said, You may kiss the bride, Daniel leaned forward. Emma smiled through her tears. They kissed. The 50 strangers cheered louder than anyone in the room. But Emma knew something had changed. She no longer cared about the empty seats. Because the people standing behind her had filled the room with something much more powerful than tradition. They had filled it with love. 6 months later, Emma received another phone call. It was her father. He wanted to meet. Emma agreed. They sat across from each other at a small coffee shop. Her father looked older, tired, regretful. I've spent a lot of time thinking about you, he said. Emma looked down at her coffee. I've spent a lot of time thinking about you, too. He apologized. Not once, not quickly. But honestly, he admitted that he had treated Emma differently from Jason. He admitted that he had mistaken her independence for not needing love. And he admitted that missing her wedding was something he would regret for the rest of his life. Emma listened. Then she said, "I can forgive you." Her father looked up. "But that doesn't mean everything goes back to the way it was." He nodded. "I understand." And for the first time, Emma felt like she was setting the rules for her own life. She didn't have to hate her family, but she didn't have to chase them either. She could forgive them without forgetting what happened. She could love them without begging them to love her back. And she could build a family of her own. Every Thanksgiving, Emma and Daniel began hosting a large dinner. Margaret came. David came. The woman Emma had helped with groceries came with her children. The 50 people from the wedding came whenever they could. And every year Emma invited someone new, someone who had nowhere to go, someone who felt forgotten, someone who believed they had no family. Emma would sit them at the table and say, "You're here now." Then she'd smile. "So you're family." Years later, Emma would still keep her father's letter. But she kept another thing too, a photograph from her wedding. It showed Emma and Daniel standing in the center of the church. Around them were 50 people. 50 people who had once been strangers. And underneath the photograph, Emma wrote a simple sentence. "Family isn't always the people who share your blood. Sometimes it's the people who refuse to let you stand alone." And that was the day Emma finally stopped asking, "Why didn't my family choose me?" Because she had discovered something better. She had discovered people who did. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more emotional and heartwarming stories. And if you believe family is about love, not just blood, leave a comment saying, "Family is who chooses you."